Good morning. Can you all hear me well? So good morning. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to come today and to talk to you a little bit about Cabarrus County Schools. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to present some of this information to the county commissioners and those that are in attendance today. I have my CFO, Phil Penn, with us this morning as well. So if there are any financial questions, we had several presentations we were going to show today, but we didn't want to inundate you with budget information, so we kind of stuck to the highlights on performance, some of the things that are going on in the district that we can highlight and show and kind of brag and tell you all the great things that are going on in Cabarrus County. But should you have any budget questions, we're very prepared to answer those as well, and Mr. Penn is here too to handle any of that, so thank you. Or maybe not. I think Kevin did this on purpose. He set me up, right? There we go. Thank you. So the first thing that we'd like to share with everyone is the mission and the vision of what guides Cabarrus County Schools. Without a mission and a vision, it's kind of hard to do anything. So you have to understand what the mission is and what the vision is and what guides us in everything that we do. And obviously for us, it's all about kids. It's all about students. It's all about inspiration and engaging them and helping them shape their future as we move forward. And we do an outstanding job with technology in our school system. But as I've learned over the years, you always have to adapt, right? No worries. We're all good. I could actually pull her up. All right, there we go. So who are we as Cabarrus County? What are the things we focus on that kind of that helps to guide our mission and our vision? Number one thing for us are kids and building those relationships and establishing a culture that welcomes everyone as we build those relationships, valuing all of our students and making sure that all of our students feel welcomed in our school system. We want to make sure that we are committed to providing the access, resources, and opportunities for all children as they walk into Cabarrus County. And as you're going to see in a moment, that's probably the biggest strength that we have in Cabarrus County. And I'd like to take a moment to thank the county commissioners and those involved in some of the decisions that have been made over the years, because you have provided us outstanding access, resources, and opportunities for all children. And we're committed to making sure that we're future-driven, that the experience that our kids see that helps prepare them for either college, career-ready opportunities, the military, whatever they want to do when they leave, that they're prepared when they leave Cabarrus County Schools. So by the numbers, gives you a good snapshot as to what's going on in Cabarrus County. This is current as of yesterday, and there's one update I'll make on that to kind of even highlight the enrollment a little further. But you can see we're at 35,407 students. Last year at this time, we were at 34,640. So what does that mean to everyone? What does that mean to the county when we look at those numbers? What I would say to you, when you look at those numbers, as a superintendent, I break that down by saying to you, we're growing a school a year. It's about 600, 700 kids. That fills a school. So if you think in those terms, it really kind of highlights and drives home the point of how fast we're growing and why the constant need. And the county has done an excellent job at building schools in this area. But the pressure and the stress of that has not lightened. It's gotten even more intense. That enrollment number, if I take the pre-K students in there, that's just a K-12 number. If I include our pre-K, we're over 36,000 students right now. So it gives you an idea how fast we're growing and how the demands continue to increase on us. 21 elementaries, 9 middle, 8 high, 1 K-8, 1 virtual, 3 early colleges, 2 alternative schools. You see our demographics continue to change. The underrepresented population of our school system is the majority of our population. Our employees, We believe, we were trying to get confirmation on this yesterday, but we believe we've moved into the #1 slot in the county as the #1 employer in the county. We believe we've surpassed Atrium. I don't have 100% confirmation of that, but we're pretty sure we are. You look at the transportation, the amount of miles per day, who rides our buses, how many stops, and what occurs on a daily basis. You look at the property that's maintained. There's over $2.5 billion worth of property in the school system that is maintained by our maintenance staff. 7 million square feet, 2,300 acres, and growing. The national exams, they're important to point out to you because it's not only all these numbers and talks about the story, how we're growing and all the different things that are occurring in our district, but we compete regionally, statewide, and nationally with the best of the best because we are among the best of the best. Our SAT scores are 128 points above the national average. So that's fantastic, and that's a highlight of the great instruction that's taking place and how our kids are producing. Our ACT is 19.2. That's almost a full point above the state average. It's slightly below the national average, but we're working on that as well. Again, it's a highlight that you have to pay attention to because it tells you how our students are excelling across the nation, the state, and the region. To drive that point further, we put this together to kind of take a look at some of the highlights. How well are our students doing? How well are our schools doing? How are we performing? Well, you're receiving national recognition. And I think that's important because we always say we are a system that is among the best in the nation. I don't say that lightly. I'm very sincere when I say that, and I believe it. You have a school system that can compete with anyone in the nation. You should be awful proud of that, and you should tell that story over and over and over again because your kids are winning awards at the state, national level all the time. Odell Elementary was just named the district's first National Blue Ribbon School. Highly, highly competitive designation to get. There were only 9 schools in North Carolina that received this designation. Odell was the first one in our county to receive it this year. Natalie Mejia was our state beginning teacher of the year. She is at C.C. Griffin, and I would tell anyone who wants to see a phenomenal teacher, they're all over the place, Natalie's special. You would be amazed at the things Natalie does in her classroom, how she connects with kids. Talking about our ever-growing VEX robotics program and the competition that our kids are excelling at, you see there some elementary schools that have qualified for the World Championships. Yes, they have World Championships. You have to go through your region, through your state, to get to that national level, to compete at the world level. Our kids are not only going there, but they're winning when they go there. You'll see that we had a student named the National Merit Scholar finalist. You will see that we had another student as a presidential scholar in CTE. Weddington Hills is a Magnet School of America. That has been a Magnet School of America, I believe, for 5 or 6 years running. And then you can see the Mount Pleasant National Chapter of the Year was named for the FFA. And then we have a student from West Cabarrus who was a Best Student Critic at the Bloomie Awards. So I highlight this to show you some of the things our kids are achieving. And I could probably stay here for about 5 hours and put about 25 slides on here, just continue to going and telling you about all the great things our kids and our teachers are doing. We have a strategic plan. I'm going to kind of go over with you real quick these 6 priority areas and some initiatives that we're working on that tells a little bit of the story on how we're kind of continually improving the school system and what we focus on a yearly basis. We're going to be entering our 3rd year of this plan. And in fact, this spring, we're going to be going back out to the community and talking about extending this for the next 3 years. Asking our community, what's working in Cabarrus County? What is not working? What do you want to see improved? And what's your vision for the school system in the future? And we're going to reach out to our entire community, physically going out and working with our school system, and also putting a survey out there for our community to give us feedback so that we get it right. We don't guess at this. Our community, our teachers, and our administrators drive the bus on these priorities. They tell us, and then we take that saturated literature, choose those priorities that rise to the top, pick the themes, and focus on that for continuous improvement each year. So these are the things that we're focused on. Obviously, the social, emotional, mental needs of all students is a constant focus. I don't think that's any surprise to anyone that has become more and more daunting. Post-COVID, these social emotional needs continues to be on the rise, and students' mental health is a big issue in the school system. Obviously, safety is the number one thing. You have to make sure that you have a safe environment first and foremost before you do anything else. Prioritizing the learning, recruiting and retaining quality staff members. I heard Kevin talk a little bit about that. That is a problem across the nation for every superintendent that exists in the school system. We're always trying to recruit and retain. And as you're recruiting and retaining, you want to make sure that you continue with the high quality instruction that you're giving. That is becoming more challenging. And then making sure that our kids have the digital resources that they need through the technology that we provide on a daily basis. And then obviously communicate all the things that we're doing in the system. So student wellness, recruiting and retaining mental health support staff. We have over 30 social workers, over 50 psychologists, over 100 guidance counselors in our system. We also have for the first year this year, we have a telemedicine agreement with Atrium Health that delivers telehealth right to our kids in school. We've had over 128 kids take advantage of the mental health resources that Atrium offers to provide services to our kids free of charge. So it's been a great partnership for us. Focus on that student wellness and the sense of belonging. We give a survey out to our students twice a year. One of the number one things that pops up on the mental health area talks about kids' sense of belonging, wanting to have a sense of belonging in the school system. I'd say that about 50% feel that they do belong, 50% feel that they do not. It gives us an at-risk chart to tell us how we can help kids and make sure that we're delivering the services they need when we talk about mental health. Teaching and learning, 97% of our graduates are career college ready. We have a graduation rate of 90% and upward. It is a goal to move that number above 95%. It is challenging because the state has a 4-year and a 5-year cohort. When you look at those numbers, it's hard to look at the actual number that they say you're graduating kids at, because what they do is if a child enters your system in 9th grade and then leaves and goes anywhere, you have to track that child. If you don't track that child counts against you in your graduation rate. So if 25 kids leave Cabarrus County and we have no trail as to where they go or can't track them down, they are attributed to us and it affects our graduation rate. Our graduation rate, when we disaggregate the data, is actually much higher than 90%. So I just share that with you because a lot of times people say that, say, geez, that graduation rate, it's shocking. I thought it'd be higher. It is higher. But we get, I don't want to say penalized, but we have to account for those kids that are no longer in our system when they leave. And with the transition going on in the system, with the growth and kids coming and going, sometimes it's just very hard to track some of those kids down. We have recovered 93% of our pandemic learning loss. That's fantastic, and that's a credit to our teachers and our staff and all the data we've collected to make sure that we are getting our kids where they need to be right now. When you look at what we offer, 48 career pathways, 45 program choice options across the district, there is nothing in the Cabarrus County school system that a child could want that they cannot access through the resources and opportunities that we provide through our pathways and programs. I mean, absolutely nothing. Whatever they want to do, they can do. Recruiting is always a constant issue, a constant problem. It's becoming much and much more difficult to retain and recruit staff. We have created some advanced teaching roles, some different career ladders to try and encourage teachers to come to Cabarrus County. We are always recruiting and going different places to try and make sure that our demographic mirrors the kids in the schools, so that we're recruiting across the spectrum, so all walks of life are walking in our school system, so our kids see folks that look like them in the classroom. So we're very intentional on that. Then the last thing I would say is that we have a grow your own model that we're going to present to the county when we come to the budget time frame in April. We're going to show the county what we think is a really good way to grow your own. The way we're recruiting teachers now is not going to continue to work because they're not going to the schools to graduate education. They're not getting into education like they used to. When you look at UNCC, you look at Appalachian State, you look at UNC, North Carolina State, all the universities around the state and even the country, less and less folks are getting into the education field. So you have to be creative and innovative as to how you recruit people. We are going to present something to the county that we think we can grow our own right here in the county. And in the very near future. And within a month at our budget meeting, you'll see that. Focused on early learning, we believe that it's very important to get as many kids early before they get to kindergarten. So we've expanded our pre-K offerings. We want to make sure they're not only kindergarten ready, but by first grade they're ready, because the research is clear. We've said it often. At third grade, if they can read at their grade level by the end of third grade, their opportunity for success in life is fantastic. However, if they're not at that level at third grade, their struggle in life is going to be increased dramatically. Jail, drugs, alcohol, bad relationships, unemployment rates, they're all high. The research is really clear. So we focus on trying to get kids as quick as we can, especially our at-risk kids, to get them into the system, work on those issues that they have so that they're ready to learn when they get to first grade and ready to learn how to read. We've put a play-based model in our kindergarten that has been tremendously successful. Many districts around the state have come to Cabarrus County to see and observe this model, to try and implement it in their school systems. We right now have it 9 district schools. The goal is to get this across all 20 elementary schools. Technology, very simply, we are one-to-one across the board K-12. And you have done a fantastic job of providing the digital resources our kids need to be successful when they leave Cabarrus County. And then community alignment. We want to make sure that we're talking to folks, we're being transparent, we're having conversations, we're engaging with the community, whether it be through some of our events like the C4 Day, whether it be through using the Edge Factor data that the county has supported to let our kids experiment and explore some different careers, whether it be through something like our Early College of Health Sciences. Another fantastic program, our Early College Health Sciences, if a student enrolls in 9th grade and finishes through, they can stay there and continue to achieve their Bachelor in Nursing in 4 years. So our Cabarrus Health Sciences offers a degree path for our kids to become registered nurses when they graduate. And I would challenge anybody to find a program like that across the country. So when we say we have opportunities for kids in this county, they're astonishing, the opportunities that our kids can really get involved in this county. And the Cabarrus Health Science is a program that will continue to grow, continue to partner with Atrium, and continue to give opportunities for our kids. So what does the future look like for us? Obviously, we're going to repurpose Beverly Hills. Again, I thank the county for the support on that. That project will start in the summer. We just finished a district-wide realignment to better utilize our space. We're going to continue to advocate for those new buildings that you see up there. And obviously, you've talked a little bit about this, but we need to continue to advocate for higher state salaries and local supplements for teachers. I tell teachers all the time, it's not the local county government you should be bothering about the supplements. Yes, I'm going to say to you, as much as if you can jack that supplement up to 15, 20%, go ahead and do it. It's great. But I understand the burdens that you have and how large your budget is and the things you are responsible for. But you've done a great job in supporting our teachers, and we appreciate that. It's the state that pays the teacher salary. It's the state that sets the salary scales. It's the state that needs to raise the wages. Teachers walk into the system making $41,000 a year. So what does that mean? If you're someone making $41,000, just do the math real quick. You take out your taxes, you're $9,000 to $10,000 done right there. You're at $31,000. I always say, take $1,000 for your rent or your mortgage, which is probably close to where the average is. So now if you do that over 12, that's another 12 grand. So now you're down to about $19,000 before you have spent the dime on paying a bill, paying a car payment, health insurance, whatever else you may have. It's very difficult to have it's one of the issues we have with recruiting and retaining teachers. They can walk in entry level elsewhere making 50 and 60 grand in different professions and be successful and make more money. It's one of the challenges that we have. Yes, we would love for you to raise a supplement. It's going to help us for sure. But it's the state we need to be advocating, the state legislature, to raise the teacher salaries because that's where the money is. They just allocated in the next 10 years over $3 billion to the Opportunity Tax Scholarship Program. If you take 93,000 teachers divided by $3 billion, look at what that raise could be over the next 10, 15 years for teachers. Our teachers would be making in excess of 60 grand a year. So the money's there. It's just on how you allocate the money and how you advocate for our teachers at the state level, because that's who's paying our salaries. Growth. So here's some of the information that we uncovered over the last year through our realignment process. Some of the things we had to take a look at and were data points that concerned us and we had to be aware of as we started to realign. No strangers to this, or any of you in here, you know how much your county has grown over the last 10 years. The numbers speak for themselves. And when you look at the population growth, 1.8% is projected for the county by the State Office of Management Budget. But since February of 2023, Cabarrus County's enrollment has grown by 2.2%. I say that to share with you that our school enrollment is growing faster than your county is growing. Our projected enrollment went past 35,000 for the first time last year. We're projecting by 2030 to be at 40K. It could be sooner, the way that the numbers are playing out. And then the residential developments, again, I know you're aware of this, but these are things we looked at, the single-family units and the multifamily units that are happening in our county, that growth. Kids come with that growth. So the more units that are built, more kids are coming, the faster our enrollment's going to go up. Enrollment data, just to share with you where our kids are coming from. This is census data. Tells you exactly where our population is coming from and how they are being distributed throughout our system in the Cabarrus County area. This is live birth data. It's a key indicator that educators, especially superintendents, pay attention to. Live birth data is one of the most reliable data sets you can use when you're trying to look at population trends. And when you look at the population trends up to 2022, I think it was only in 2008 that it exceeded 2,700 kids. So 2,733 in 2022, and that's the Department of Health and Human Services data. And you look at the graph, the chart, you can kind of see where you have some peaks and valleys, but you're starting to see it inching up again. So again, it's data that we pay attention to because live births are real. We know that's occurring. We know where those kids are. Done. So this chart's a little tough to see, but you're going to see it in a moment in a larger version. This is the historical enrollment by school in Cabarrus County. It tracks back to 2014, 2015, and this first table you're going to look at takes you to the current enrollment periods, okay? So you can see by school the various trends that are occurring and what's happening in the enrollment in Cabarrus County. If you could slide up just a little bit to the bottom, you'll see at the bottom in 2013-14, you're about 30,000 kids. Right now, that says 35,025. That number is actually higher. It's about 35,400 right now. So it tells you, when you look at the growth that has occurred over the last 10 years, it's been consistent and steady in the county. The next chart gives you future enrollment projections. So you take a lot of those data points that we talked about, including the live birth data, and you kind of project out. This data, I will say, is not perfect, but it's fairly accurate. You're going to be close to these numbers. There could be some movement here or there, but these are fairly consistent projections based on the information that we looked at in terms of where you will be. And if you think about the first slide I talked about earlier, if you think about growing the school year, picking up 500, 600 kids a year, it tells a story where you're going to be in about 10 years. And when you think about if the school system is growing faster than the county's growing, these kids are coming. If the buildings are being built and these multifamily units, single-family units are being built, families are coming. You look at the live birth data, families are coming. So you can tell by those projections and those different data sets where you probably will be in about 10 years. This projects at about 43,000, and this is a moderate projection. There are other projections that have a more aggressive number where it would be higher. We chose the moderate one to look at to be somewhat conservative. But I would say it's pretty spot on as to what has been occurring across the county in the last 10 years. So what does that mean? That means that these are some of the items that we need to focus on. We have some deferred maintenance of over $500 million that needs to be addressed. We have a design capacity issue. 11 of our schools, 100% utilized, 10 under 80, utilized in 22-23. We have corrected that, but we have not perfected that. What I mean by that is this. I have said to our board and our public, we cannot realign ourselves out of this problem. We can make our utilization better. We can make our feeder patterns better. We can make our diversity better. And we can make our proximity better. But we can't realign ourselves completely out of this because there's not enough space for the kids that are coming in to be in, which is why we need the schools to be built. And 1 out of every 10 of the available classroom equates to 4,400 students that are in a mobile unit. When you look at that yellow line, that's where we are. As you see it ascending, that's where we're going to be in about 7-8 years. The blue line represents brick and mortar space. That's the actual buildings. So you can see by roughly next year, we're out of brick and mortar space. The white line with the red outline represents the mobile units. And you can see by around 29-30, we're out of mobile space, meaning we're out of physical space to put kids in. We don't have any space. You can't mobile your way out of this because there's no room to put mobile units on anymore. They're also very expensive, and they're also not the safest option for kids to be in. They just present a lot of different issues for you. So our board has just approved a realignment plan that affected 3,700 students. Roughly about 10.8% of our students were affected by the realignment. We used Cooperative Strategies as a consultant to develop that long-range facilities plan and the realignment plan. So it puts us in a really good position to manage the growth over the next 10 years. The only realignment we should have to do in the next 10 years is when we build a new school to realign kids into that new school. We should not have to realign kids across the district for at least 10 years if we manage the growth correctly. We anticipate with great hope and excitement that we can start implementing that long-range plan as we have discussions with the county about some of those schools that we propose to build. One being that Beverly Hills is now closed at the end of this year. Coltrane Well will also close. We'd like to combine that school and build a 750-seat elementary school there to replace those two schools. Questions or comments?
I have a couple. Commissioner Morris had brought up with the city of Kannapolis the importance of supplements. The supplements that we provide, is that for certified staff only? Do teacher assistants get those supplements? And where are we at opening wise for the non-certified staff if that does have an impact?
Say that last part again, Commissioner Wortman.
How many openings, like where do we stand? Do non-certified staff get that supplement? And if they don't, does that affect the amount of openings that we have because they're...
Yeah, so the supplement is provided just for the teachers. Non-certified staff do not get the supplement. How does it impact us? My observation and my experience thus far in the 3 years I've been here is that the state of North Carolina and the counties have provided supplements to teachers for years. It's something that occurs and happens. People understand that, right? What that percentage is varies by county. The non-certified staff are more hourly employees. I would say when I look at we just completed a salary study that we'll be presenting to you in the near future, in the next month. We do a fairly good job at paying our employees a good wage. We're a little off in some areas, but it's not drastic. But it's competitive. I mean, your neighbor's going to pay a lot more, and I heard Kevin say it earlier, and it's true. We can't, and I tell people, don't even look at CMS. We don't have that tax base. It's not a fair comparison. It's not an apple and apple when you look at that. It's not a fair comparison. When you look at Cabarrus County to other counties, we are actually we're more often than not leading the way in how we treat our employees. There are those who would argue that point with me, but I do think we pay well. You always hope you can pay more, but our system is no different than your system, meaning I only have so much money to give. Everybody would like a bonus, I'd like to hand it out. But if I give a bonus to this group, then what am I saying to that group? If I give a bonus to this group, what am I saying to that group? If I raise wages for a particular department, you have to be cognizant of the other departments as well. But I would say by and large, we pay well. In terms of recruitment and retention, I should have been more clear about this. Teachers, number one, yes. But we need bus drivers, we need mechanics, we need school nutrition folks, we need folks working on our kids. Plus, we need people across the entire district. Part of that problem is the growth. As we grow fast, these positions open up, and we need more and more people to help us with the programs that we have. So we're constantly recruiting folks. And you want to get high-quality, qualified people. It's an effort, and it takes work. In terms of numbers, the need is everywhere. We're not so bad that we can't function, but we have stress points. We definitely have some stress points. Bus transportation is a stress point. Some key teaching areas are stress points. Some other key positions in the area, causes some stress as well. It's just a constant keeping your eye on the ball and constantly trying to find ways to fill positions and recruit people.
And my second question, I know you've given a presentation at our summit, but have you gone to each municipality like Concord City Council, Harrisburg? Because you have a slide in here that shows the multifamily units being built. I think there's a big misconception that the county doesn't build apartments. Rodney, I think if I'm correct, the last time we did a subdivision was 5 or 10 years ago, and it was 5 houses was our subdivision. And so while we're tasked with funding the schools, we're not the ones that are building these apartments, these massive subdivisions. So have you or are you planning to go to each specific individual to show that the actions they're taking are having consequences for everybody, not just that city?
Yeah, that's a great observation, keen on your point. And my intention was not to say the county's doing this. I just want to share with you that this is what we're dealing with in terms of growth. And your point is spot on, because it's the municipalities that are approving the zoning laws and the way folks are building their developments, right? So I understand and appreciate that insight as well. In the the end of March till the middle of May, I wanted to wait until the realignment vote came through one way or the other before I went out and said, hey, here's where we are for the future. I'll be going out. I start in the end of March. It's like 10 dates through different schools. And then mixed in there until the middle of May, I'll be hitting all the municipalities as well to share with them all of our plan.
I think that Commissioner Workman's question was an excellent one. I recently attended a community event. I think you were present, and this is in the western part of the county, and repeatedly over and over and over again, we heard that question. Why are you approving? And every single time I had to say, well, Cabarrus County did not approve that. That was approved by the municipalities, and we have to work with that. And that's not, that's not pointing the finger at anybody or placing blame. That's just the way the system works, and it's not unique to Cabarrus County. It's the same way all over the state of North Carolina. And so it's good for people to understand that. I guess the question that I wanted to ask, and you did a very good job with your presentation, but we hear all these conflicting reports all the time. I'm very proud of our school system, both of our school systems here in Cabarrus County. I think they're doing a great job. But we hear, I heard just within the last week, somebody said, our schools are failing. They're rated 46 out of 50, and I know that there are so many different organizations that make these declarations and that sort of thing. And then you've got the state that grades all the schools. I don't think most people, myself included, really understand their methodology and how much they measure growth as opposed to strictly how a child does on a test. I'm a firm believer that what happens at home is probably the biggest determinant as to how well kids do in school, and so I just kind of wanted to hear your reaction to some of those things. And it's very I hear on one hand somebody say our school system is failing. They're not doing a good job of educating our children, but yet you see the growth that's occurring in Cabarrus County. And when I meet people out and they say they're new to the community, that's my standard question. Why did you decide to live in Cabarrus County? Why'd you choose us? And the answer that I get consistently all the time is, we got a job in the region, many times maybe in Charlotte. We started looking around at places to live and looking at school systems. And we looked at all the surrounding counties. We looked at Cabarrus County school system, and that's where we wanted to be. That's where we wanted our kids to be in school. So we have a good reputation out there somewhere. So could you kind of address the conflicts that occur there?
That's a dangerous question to ask me, because I could be up here for hours and hours and hours and put you to sleep. Well,
Understand.
So what I would say to you this. So first and foremost, Kevin alluded to it earlier. I believe I'm not anti anything when it comes to charter schools, private schools, whatever. I think parents are the first and best teachers of kids. You decide where you want to put your child. That's your choice. But I will tell you this. I will take Cabarrus County schools. I'm incredibly sincere when I say this to you. I've been other places. I've seen other systems. I've been across this country. I will take this system and I will put it up against any system in the country, and I guarantee you we will be as competitive, if not more successful, than most systems you'll see in the country. I believe that. I wouldn't say it if I didn't believe it. You have things that we offer here that no one even comes close to offering. We have an aviation program in West Cabarrus. I have 75 kids waiting to get that aviation program. Think of a triangle. We have an aviation program up here. Down on this side of that aviation program, we have a BEX robotic component that talks about the robotics and what goes on in the plane. On this side, we have the drone program. I'm not sure if folks are aware of it, but drones are becoming a much in demand sector of employment for kids to be involved in. College is not for everybody. Certifications and credentialing is a way of the future where we can credential and certify kids in drone technology where they can walk out of here and make a phenomenal salary. Duke Energy uses drones to work the power lines. Think of that for a moment. There are other companies that use the drone technology for a lot of different things. We have that program. We have a fire safety program where a kid can walk in and get certified and be a fireman when they walk out of the system. We have an award-winning masonry program at Central Cabarrus High School. Anyone know what a mason makes per hour? Anyone ever try to lay brick and see how difficult and how it is? Our kids are state award-winning. It's amazing what they do. I just highlight those three things. Athletically, humanities, arts, theater, there's nothing you could want that we don't offer. I showed that one page where some of our kids are achieving at high academic levels, but there were the arts and humanities in there as well that our kids are achieving at. So competitively speaking, there's nothing that you could want or you could not want to do. We always say access, resource, and opportunities. We want to give our kids access to the resources and opportunities we provide for them here in Cabarrus County. Academically, I showed you data points where our kids are succeeding at a very high level, above the national level, 128 points above the national level. That's high level stuff. So there are a lot of data points to say we are wildly successful. I also understand that when you're a system this big, or any system, some folks are going to be unsatisfied because they've had an experience or a moment where it didn't go well for them or their child. That's on us. We have to communicate better and continue to work with those kids to make sure we're meeting them where they are, to make sure that we are providing those resources that they need to be successful. And critics are everywhere. So I can argue that all day long. Our system is phenomenal, and it's as good as anyone you're ever going to walk into. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And I would walk through that with anyone, and I'll take them into schools. I'll show them I'll show our facilities. So I showed the deferred maintenance. I believe I have enough wisdom to understand the deferred maintenance in the county after being here for 3 years. You've done a phenomenal job, but the growth has even probably caused you a lot of difficulty because you're building schools over 6 or 7 years. We didn't talk about what you built over the last 6 or 7 years. It have cost you $100 million or more. So there's only so much money to go around. The deferred maintenance may not have been able to be taken care of right away. So I understand some of the challenges that are presented on your side of the table as well. But also, when you walk into our facilities, they're world class. I mean, I'm not just saying this. Walk into our facility, get off the floor. Our maintenance folks keep those places in phenomenal shape and the conditions, and they're pristine. We just athletically look at our fields, look at our gyms, look at the way our kids are competing. I mean, there's nothing that they could want again that they don't have. And I'll just kind of stop there, but I will compete with anybody anywhere. What I would say to folks, if you choose an alternative, that's fine. That's your choice. But I'm telling you, what we have to offer is better than anything you're going to find around here. And I believe that. And I also believe I can prove that with data, evidence, and taking you through the system.
How do you feel while we're talking about the alternative choices, with the state implementing the voucher program, and I feel like I know there's not as much supply out there for the other choices, but as this voucher programs take off, I think there'll be some more demand. How do you anticipate, in your opinion, that changing the demand numbers that we're seeing that you guys have projected out for a number of years? How do you still see there being that much demand? How do you think this voucher system is going to change the landscape of public school education?
I think your footprint right now in Cabarrus County from a physical standpoint and from a reputation standpoint is solid. What I mean by that is there's not going to be 15 or 20 charter schools, I don't believe, opening up in the next 5 or 10 years in Cabarrus County. Challenging, as we all know, it's challenging to find land to do that. It costs money to do that. And then you have to be good at it. And then you're coming into an area that is tremendously successful at producing high-quality education for kids. So, I think you're naive as a leader to think you don't have to make sure you're being competitive and you're being innovative and creative as to what you're doing. So in Cabarrus County, there's not a charter school live that offers 48 programs, 45 career pathways for CTE. They don't exist. So it's things like that, things that we can offer, things we can do for kids. It's about our kids leaving and coming back and then bragging on the program. It's about our kids leaving here and going either into the military, into highly successful careers, colleges, what have you, and being successful when they leave, that tell the story and help sell the narrative of what's going on in Cabarrus County. Vouchers are challenging in the sense, in my opinion, this is just John speaking, that pulls money out of the public sector. And again, I'm not anti-charter, but let's all play by the same rules. If we're going to do that, I think we need to take a second look as to how we're funding public schools. Because I don't think that the funding formula has been successful for many years. And look at Leandro. There's millions of dollars sitting out there that we would benefit greatly from if they released their Leandro money, but they're still having arguments about how they want to do that. But yet they can go and attribute money. And I'm not criticizing voucher programs, but they can find money to contribute to that pot. Well, we have money that the court's already said is ours. We can't even get our hands on it.
Obviously, I'm a fan of Cabarrus County schools. So we've always talked about in the years past of being competitive. And could you expand a little bit on the history, or at least the last few years, of kids that start out in private schools, charter schools, whatever, and then they come back? A lot of them come back, right? And that money does not follow. Could you explain that? So, because I don't think probably most people in here don't really know that.
So very simply, and Mr. Penn, if I'm wrong, correct me, but when a child goes to charter, the charter money, the public school money follows the charter kid to the school. If that charter school kid decides to come back to Cabarrus County, the money doesn't come back to the school system. That money's gone once it goes. Right. So if a kid leaves in the beginning of the school year and comes back and transitions back in November, December, which happens, we don't get the money back. That money's gone. Now, the next year, that kid will count in our ADM projections for the future growth, for the future year. But once the money's gone, it's gone. So, yeah, it's challenging. No question.
I know you haven't given us the numbers yet. We'll get that later. But with the $1 billion that's coming, what is the reality if we don't fund all of that? If we only fund part of it, what happens to those? What actually happens to those kids? Where do they go? And is there a possibility of stretching it out to kind of, we're in between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah.
And is the timeline you've given the actual reality? But if we can't do it, what happens to those kids? Where do they go, and what does school look like for them?
So if you do nothing, and what I say by nothing, don't build a school, don't do anything, we don't have space. I don't have an answer for you as where we're going to put kids. We have no mobile units. We have no brick and mortar space. We showed you in 2 or 3 years what's going to happen. If the numbers continue the growth as they have, as we said, a school year, we're out of space. I mean, that's just a reality of what you're facing. I think in a common sense approach, I like to be logical and look at all perspectives. I think it's, one of the strengths, again, of the Cabarrus County school system is the relationship with the county. I think we have a very good collaborative relationship that we may not always agree, but we have a good vibrant discussions happening all the time. And the county has supported the system. That's been proven. It's there. The evidence is there. So I would say to you, I think that initially, the 2 elementary schools are definitely needed, without question. I think that's where we start. I think Northwest High School is something that absolutely needs to be replaced. And that's, I think that was projected for around 2026. I think as you go, and I think this is a further discussion. I don't want to be pinning anything I say here, but I think as you go, I think you continue to look at the data and the evidence and the numbers. So let's say we get to 2026 and the numbers revert, they're minus, or they stay the same, or they're not, because we're going to continue to watch the data as we move forward. They're not projected to grow as fast. Well, then I think maybe we slow down and say, wait a minute, we don't need this right now. I think you have to be logical and realistic when you're approaching it. If the numbers continue to play out the way we've been told and predicted, then I think that drives the bus a little bit too for the county to say, okay, we do need this, we do need that. Some of your other schools too, and again, it's no one's fault. Age does things to things, right? I wasn't always this good looking. Okay, I mean, age takes over, right? It takes time. Central Cabarrus High School is in dire need. It just is. It's in dire need to be replaced. It's old. It's past its time. Think about that school. If you walk in, think about the size of that cafeteria to what a cafeteria looks like today, especially if you're growing. Think about the gym in that facility. It's a great gym, but it's old and there's issues and there's problems. Think about the media center. Think about the technology, the bandwidth. Think about the hallways that are narrow and smaller for kids that are coming through. And folks, they're bigger today than they were in the past. And you're trying to navigate these kids through a building. These are some of the physical things that we deal with. Think about all the mobile units that sit outside Central Cabarrus. That's not healthy. That's not good. I mean, that's not what you want to see in a high school. So these are things that are problems that are ancillary problems we have to address long term. But that's an issue that you have to address at some point, because it's one of those situations where you're just going to be pouring good money after bad if you continue to address some of the issues in there instead of just, you got to bite the bullet, fix the school, and you're good for X amount of years. The other thing is too, is as you build these schools, a lot of the deferred maintenance will fall off because it won't be existing anymore. And many people don't want to hear this, but Beverly Hills, you're going to gain $20 million plus in deferred maintenance are going to fall off the list because the building is now going to be closed. And then if you take Coltrane Webb off the cycle as well, because that's going to be closed. And if we do build a replacement school, that's another $20 million that fell off deferred maintenance. So in one building being built, it eliminates $40 million of deferred maintenance that exists right now. So that number starts to reduce.
Yes, a question that I would ask, and very, very much in line with what we just heard. We've heard the case for the for the needs of the schools. You know, we've seen the study that's been done. We've seen the utilization chart that shows the mobile units and the physical space and when we run out of space. And so if this board or any board, says, well, enough is enough. We just can't handle it. I mean, if we fund these school projects as you've requested, the only way that we can come up with money is to increase property taxes and go and our taxpayers don't want to do that. What happens? And and I'm certainly not giving you any ideas, but I'm looking back at history. If you don't have enough seats for the kids in the schools, then you have to put them on 2 shifts and have a morning shift and an evening shift. And what does that do to your personnel situation? Or, as has happened in the past, the school system has sued the Board of Commissioners. And that's happened in lots of other counties as well. And this might be a question for our staff or for our legal folks in the audience, but when that happens, what are the statistics about who wins and how often? And then what do you have to do? So part of those questions are for you, Dr. Kopicki, and part of them are for us, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on it, because the taxpayers need to know what are the choices.
So I guess my first question would be to the county commissioners. You don't even have to answer this question but I think you know it. When businesses come here, what's one of the first things they start talking about? They ask you. I would be willing to bet they're asking about the education system. What kind of education system do you have? What kind of schools do you have? How good is it? What programs do you offer? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if you start to, I don't want to say deteriorate, but what will happen if you don't do anything is the quality of education, the system you have, is going to decrease. And when that quality starts to go backwards or decreases, it's just going to have a domino effect on a lot of other things. It will affect your employees. It'll affect your facilities. It'll affect the people that are moving here. It'll affect if your education system starts to fail, or the quality of your education system goes down, or you're jamming kids into schools and you're doing tiered times when people are attending schools where your home values will be affected as well. So your homes, it's all interconnected, right? Just take the dominoes that could play out there would be very negative. And I totally believe and can affirm and can prove that your educational system is one of the solid strengths of this county, 100%, without question. So I just think it's that you have to. Your school systems are a reflection of your communities. Your communities are a reflection of your school systems. This should be something that people are beating their chests over, being so proud of the system that you have, that your kids have these opportunities to walk into. This does not happen across the country everywhere. You have such a unique, special school system that's so vibrant and so successful. Yes, we have problems. I'm not here to say we don't have issues. Every system, every organization has problems, but there's nothing that we can't address while continuing to provide for kids an outstanding educational experience. That's just fact, and I could prove that over and over again. So if you start to pay less attention to that or stop investing in that, it's only going to have negative consequences down the road. And I would strongly continue to advocate on behalf of the school system. We have to continue to support the school system. And if you don't do anything, there's no space.
I got another question that I would like to hear your opinion on, and if you say I'll get back to you on that, that's an acceptable answer, because I certainly don't expect you to come in here prepared for everyone. But You know, as we look at the growth that's occurring in the county, and we look at the facility needs and what that will cost, you know, always looking for alternative ways of dealing with these situations. How can we make this work with the least amount of expense? And one of the things that we've talked about is some of the state mandates that have occurred over the last couple of years in maximum classroom size. And we've been talking about this for a number of years. I think it was Hickory Ridge Elementary School was under construction when those new regulations came into place. And so we did a very clear analysis of how that impacted. You know, we're building a new school to accommodate growth, and all of a sudden the number of children that could be served was drastically reduced because they reduced that the number of kids allowed in the classroom. And so from my perspective, counties that are experiencing significant rapid growth like Cabarrus County is should have some sort of an exemption to that maximum classroom size, that we ought to be able to put a few more children in those classes. At the same time, there's a shortage of you correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more difficult to get good qualified teachers because there's a shortage of them. They're not out there. So that classroom size compounds that problem as well. So we're talking about compounding a personnel problem, compounding a facilities issue. And so it seems to me that would be a logical thing for the General Assembly to do, is to provide us some relief on that. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that. I may not be looking at every piece of it.
Yeah, it's a thought-provoking question, to be honest with you. Our class sizes, obviously, because of the mandates, are excellent, right? But I don't think it would hurt much to raise them slightly, and I'd be very careful about what that looks like. They're optimal right now, but I don't think it's unrealistic. I don't think it would be something that we couldn't have a conversation about. I wouldn't put 25 or 35-year-olds in kindergarten, but I could, if one or two here or there, or creating a section that maybe eliminates a section is a possibility. I think it's a conversation worth having. But again, I don't know that I would raise it way above what it is. There's an optimal number there. And for us, I'd want to look at, I know in our K through 5, our numbers are pretty good. I know 6 through 12, there are some areas of our schedule where our classes are really large, and that's problematic. But that's more because of human capital not being, we don't have the teachers, right? I would engage in a conversation, but I'd be careful on the numbers. But I'm not opposed to, moving it a little bit.
And I don't have, you gave us the figures earlier. I don't have them in front of me right now, but the number of elementary schools that we have in Cabarrus County.
20.
And 20?
20, yep.
So there's 20 elementary schools, and I'm not sure how many classes there would be in each one of those elementary schools. But if we increase the class size in each of those elementary school classrooms by
21, actually, 21.
Say 3 children per class, that would be a big number total, right?
It would add up. I mean, it's all math, right? You're spot on where you're saying it's all mathematical. You just have to work the formula to how many sections do you have, how many do you need, and what's the optimal class size you can put in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm having part of this conversation to provide tools to have those conversations with our delegation of the General Assembly to try to convince them that they can help us out and they can help the taxpayers of Cabarrus County out if they give us this relief. So thank you for engaging in that exercise.
Good conversation.
I've got a question for you. So, as we, I guess there's been discussions over almost a year about this $1 billion request, and that potentially we'll need 7 new schools in the next 10 years. I understand Central Cabarrus is old, Northwest is old, Beverly Hills is old school. And as you and I spent time walking around Beverly Hills, as I had said, the education component to kids, teachers and those relationships and the community support is, what makes a real good education. Now, the building is important, but not as important as the teachers and the relationships and that community support. So it seems like, the priority was to shut down Beverly Hills and Coulter and Webb and build a replacement. Now, A.L. Brown High School is over 100 years old, so, in the community I hear, well, A.L. Brown High School is over 100 years old, Beverly Hills wasn't close to that, Central's is not close to that. Of course, they're up there in age, but what was the reasoning for, if we need 7 new schools in the next 10 years, why would we shut down a school and then just build, or shut down 2 and build a replacement, whenever we could have just used those funds to go out and build a new one of one of the 7 that is needed?
On Beverly Hills site?
No. I'm saying, instead of shutting down Beverly Hills and Coulter and Webb, then you say that we need 7 new schools instead of shutting down 2 and just building a replacement. Why would the request not be to use those funds to build one of these 7 that we say we're going to need in the next 10 years?
So one of the 7 is the replacement school for Coulter and Webb and Beverly Hills. Okay.
So then we could knock that off, and then we'd have 6. So why was the request not to use that money to build them one of those other 6?
I'm not sure I follow you, Mr. Measer, in terms of what money you're talking about. The money to build
The replacement for Beverly Hills and Coulter and Webb. I think the request is about $50 million for a replacement on that.
Mm-hmm.
But those schools are already there operating.
Right.
And if we're going to need 6 more, then why would the request not be to use that money to build one of these other 6 versus shutting down 2 that we already have?
Well, Coulter and Webb is going to transition to the old R. Brown McAllister next year, so we're still using that building, right? Beverly Hills, no matter how you cut it up, it's. I have said it. I'll say it again. It's safe for kids to be in the school, but the design feature in that school did not provide a safe environment over the long haul for kids. There are too many things wrong in that school that it would cost you too much money to fix it. When you start looking at the replacement costs and the facility condition index scores, it exceeds $20 million, and I'm probably being conservative. The other thing is, once you touch that school and start fixing anything, you got to bring it to code. So now you're probably touching the whole school, and the amount of money, I couldn't even predict what that would cost. I'd have to talk with Tim and Brian and folks in our facilities position. To put a school there of that size didn't make economic sense because it was too small for the needs of what we need in terms of the growth. Coulter and Webb is also a very old building that's got a lot of issues going on there as well, and had a high FCI score as well in terms of deferred maintenance. So it just made more sense to combine them and temporarily adjust where Beverly Hills kids go to school for 2 years.
But
there's enough space, there's enough capacity in the 2-year period to shift 300 kids. Okay. But they're all going to come back if they choose to the combined school as well when we open the new school, hopefully.
See, the growth is not in that area. The growth needs are in other parts of the county where we're going to have to build.
You're correct, which is why we said close 2, build 1, because there's 600 and we project. I'm within 25 to 30 kids on this. We project about 605 to 630 kids in that Coulter and Webb Beverly Hills area over the next 10 years. So when we started looking at those numbers, that was one of the indicators that we use. Say, well, in 10 years, there's not going to be any kids in this area to build 2 schools. It didn't justify building 2 schools, which is why we then said, well, and they're both very old and they both have incredibly high deferred maintenance costs. The 2 of them combined was over $40 million in terms of deferred maintenance. Well, we built Arbor McAllister for $48 million. So you start thinking about it from an economic sense. It made more sense to combine the 2 based on the population data, based on the financials that we saw, based on deferred maintenance. And then we had the property at Coltrane Webb, so we didn't have to go out and buy property. So we're using our own asset to build the school there, to then long-term place kids at that particular building.
It just seems to me that if, with this demand that we've seen in this trend, that we're going to have to go out and build these new schools, it seems like that a priority could have been a little bit more on that than shutting down 2 current ones and just doing a replacement. I understand what you're saying as far as the deferred maintenance, but we're in a, as Commissioner Wortman said, we're in between a rock and a hard place because there are needs, but also we're in a situation with the reevaluations, property taxes. We have some real tough decisions to make, but I just wanted to hear what the reasoning for, as I said, shutting down 2, just building a replacement whenever the need is in other areas of the county as far as growth.
True. Now you still have an educational need for a facility in that area. I just don't.
Yeah.
The data doesn't say you need 2. The other thing I would say to you, very directly, if the vote did not come through to shut down Beverly Hills, if I'm being completely honest with you, I would have pushed my board very hard. I would not have okayed putting kids in that building for next year. There's too many safety problems in that building in terms of long-term things to address that put kids at risk. Again, the building is safe for kids to be in, but not long-term. There's too many design features. There's too many things that can go wrong there that you either address them and fix them, or you close and build another school. It's one or the other. You can't do both. So, that building is that. Now, there are those who are going to argue with me and say that's not true, but that is true. That's fact. And you and I walked it, so I showed you a lot of the things we were concerned with. And I would not feel comfortable continuing to keep that building open long term with all the deficiencies that I know exist. I do appreciate and respect your opinion.
If I heard you correctly, I think you said that Beverly Hills would drop $20 million off the deferred maintenance list. Coltrane Webb would drop an additional $20 million off the deferred maintenance list, and the replacement school is estimated at $50 million. Is that correct?
$50 million is what we project. We built Arbor McAllister for 48. So you're in that $48 to $50 million range.
Right.
And, you're hoping that there's some value-added things that go when you start doing the value-added cost on them, when you do the design, the features, that you can start dropping the price. Well, maybe not. But I think I know we can build a school for that amount of money for sure. Hopefully less. But at the very least, we can, because we're going to take Arbor McAllister. Our plan is to propose taking the Arbor McAllister model and dropping that right there on the Coltrane website. So we know what it costs to do the same model, should be around the same price.
Yeah, and I think that answers another question that I hear frequently about cloning schools and using the same design and not having to redesign them, and that's another whole conversation, but that's a good point. Now, when you combine those 2 schools, we're eliminating that deferred maintenance, and of course we're in the midst of campaign season. So I've heard candidates stand up and say, "Well, the school system in the county has let their facilities just go to pot, or else there wouldn't be $500 million in deferred maintenance." And I think you mentioned earlier about, I think the school system does a very good job of maintaining facilities, and I've visited lots of them probably in the last 6 months, and I haven't seen those kind of situations. But I just wanted to point out those facts. Also, A.L. Brown High School opened in 1950, so it's not quite 100 years yet. If it were, then that means I would be 100 years old as well. And I'm pretty sure that's not the case.
The original part, I was told that it's 100 years old.
Well, you were told incorrectly because
find out.
A.L. Brown, the first graduating class of A.L. Brown High School was either 1950 or 1951.
But it's still older than the facilities we have in the Cabarrus County school system.
Yeah,
But
it's not
maybe not 100 years old then.
It's not older than Coltrane Webb Elementary School. I think Dr. Kopicki was scheduled to be finished at 10 a.m., so I don't know how much longer we want to drill him, or if you want to take a break, but I'll leave that to you, sir.
Yeah, hey, I'll stay as long as you need me, or we can end here. But I do want to say this before we leave. I do appreciate the support the county has given to the school system because that's accurate. I'm very cognizant of the fact there's only X amount of dollars to go around. These are problems that are being presented by the great area that we all live in. So I do understand your challenges. Then lastly, I want to thank and highlight this to everyone in the room. Rodney Harris and Mike Downs are incredible people to work with and collaborate with. There's never a time where I don't pick the phone up or call them. I don't get a response back or information or help with anything that we have. So I appreciate that help that they give us, and they support us on a consistent basis, and they're just tremendous resources to have, and they're always working for us and the betterment of kids. So I do appreciate the effort that they give as well. So I thank you, and if you want me to stay, I will. If not,
Before you leave, would you go ahead and tell these people who the best school board member you ever had?
that'll be Sam Treadway and Rob Walter.
I do have one more quick question. Since we're taking two schools and we're combining them to one, what happens to the extra staff positions? Because you're obviously cutting that. Are those staff positions that go away to where we can save a little money, or do you hold on to those? What happens to those positions since we're combining?
That's a fantastic question. So Mr. Penn has worked diligently over the last year to implement what I call true attrition. If we don't need the position, we're not posting or hiring it. We're attritioning positions off. Some folks talk attrition, but it never happens. So we have got a real good hit on our ESSER positions, and weaving those positions into full-time positions. We're not going to come in and ask you to be funding positions that were funded by ESSER. We don't need it. We've blended those in through attrition. And with this particular move, again, there's a small staff. It's a growing district. We need teachers. No one's going to lose their job in this transition period. But as we evaluate every position that is requested or needed, we look to see is that actually the case. And that's something we're continually studying as well. This month in March, we started allotments for teachers and all that for next year. I think we're going to probably come on the best we've been in a long time in terms of position-wise. But no one will lose their job. Yeah, there are, as Mr. Tried to point out, there are definite savings for sure. But appreciate you. Thank you very much.